So good afternoon and welcome to today's Uplift with Vision. I'm Reverend Jeanne and I'm very happy to be able to meet with you today and to guide you in today's Uplift. This is a wonderful chance for us to just come together heart to heart through the wonders of technology. But we begin in prayer. So just join me in knowing just being in the gratitude for this moment, for this opportunity to find a respite in the busyness of the day. So join together to remember that God is right here. God is all there is. And we are one with God, that we are traveling the path of goodness and love together, guided, guarded, protected. For there is only this one life, this one divine life, living us, breathing us, being us. And so as we come together, I just again say thank you. Just heart filled with gratitude for this time, for this place. Simply allowing you to be, and so it is. So here we are, a new year, a new president, a new administration. And I'm hearing a lot of words and references to forging a new path and moving in a new direction. Well, all good things, I think. Mostly because I know that spirit is always moving and always seeking a greater expression of good, a greater expression of life and of all the qualities of God. But I also recognize that finding your way in the midst of change is not easy. It demands courage and commitment. And I'm not just talking about politics or life choices or careers or relationships. You know, those are all outer expressions, outer experiences, the scenery along our life journey. I'm talking about where they originate, from our inner roadmap, and where a different kind of compass is required. Right? It's the spiritual journey that we're all on. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about today. Finding our way within. So where do we start? Well, every journey begins with a desire, a goal, an ideal destination. And, you know, the target of our spiritual journey is often unclear, especially when we set out. But the desire wells up nonetheless. Carolyn Mace, in her book, Entering the Castle, talks about how we start life directed by our egos and survival questions like, you know, what's mine and how much can I have and how can I feel more safe? But eventually we say, you know, there has to be more than this. She says this: then an inner earthquake begins to split the landscape of your life. You find yourself at a crossroads where the voice of the soul pushes you to choose a new road that will take you to your real, authentic purpose. Right? Oh, I love that. Ernest Holmes explained it as something mystical inside of us. He called it a mystical essence that has pre-programmed our emotional and spiritual development all along throughout our lives. It's what we refer to as the call to a greater expression of ourselves. Right? And, you know, even the field of psychology has recognized this inner call. I found it fascinating to learn that Carl Jung considered it a common element among his patients who were in the second half of their life. He found that those who came to him younger than 35 were mostly working on developing their egos, right? Feeling secure enough in themselves to build a family, to build a career, to build a relationship. But everyone older, the issues they had were inherently related to their search for what he called a religious outlook on life. And he's not talking about searching for a church or religion necessarily, but I think it was more talking about that longing to follow the divine urge, that which calls us to move past our old and limited view of ourselves, right? The masks, the images, the titles, the roles that we play, our ego self. And instead to embrace the larger truth of what we are, of who we are, co-creators with God. That's our true self. And so we start on the path, this spiritual journey, to find our way from head to heart, from outer to inner, from victim to co-creator. I wonder if anything comes to your mind of when you had that moment of truth, the start of your search for something more. For some, it can be a gradual process of unfoldment and awakening. For others, a sudden lightning bolt, a tearful prayer for help with deep surrender, or a gentle letting go. You know, each person's different, but the call is the same. Again, what Carolyn Mace calls the voice of the soul that pushes you to choose a new road that will take you to your real, authentic purpose. Well, frankly, you wouldn't be here if you hadn't heard that inner voice. So here we are together, right, on this unfamiliar road, finding our way, fellow travelers. And here's a simple truth to keep in mind along that path. Getting lost is a natural part of the journey. Let me say that again. Getting lost is a natural part of that journey. I read once that a plane flying from San Diego to Hawaii is only on a direct course less than 10% of the time. Mostly it's zigging and zagging across the Pacific Ocean. The pilot is constantly repositioning as his radar and the various towers direct him. Kind of like our lives, right? And mistakes are how we learn. So I think giving ourselves permission to grope about in the dark is important, right? And there's a great gift that results in that too, because it teaches us to trust our instincts, to trust God, Spirit, to trust. Which brings me to my GPS and how it saved my life story. You see, I have no innate sense of direction. None. Zip. I'm incapable of visualizing north, south, east, or west. To me, everything is either forward or backward. And if in doubt, turn right. So after a lifetime of being navigationally challenged, I finally found the cure. I bought a GPS. Yes. Which I think the inventor, by the way, should be put up for sainthood. Absolute genius. But, you know, it was interesting because I didn't feel that way at first. And that was because I had a hard time trusting it. I remember the first few weeks that I had it, I kept testing it on places that I already knew how to get to. And I was constantly disappointed and frustrated that it chose different routes, wrong routes in my mind. It was a real process. I had to learn how to surrender to the idea that, you know what, there's more than one right way. Imagine that. One of my favorite things about the GPS is no matter how I questioned it, and I still do sometimes, it never talks back, right? If the GPS says turn right and I ignore it and turn left, it doesn't say, oh, you stupid idiot, I said turn right. You're not listening again. No, it simply says recalculating. That's it. And it automatically calculates the route from where I currently am, giving me yet another option to get to my destination. And I think that's very much what God, what Spirit does on our spiritual journey too. You know, we determine our destination. We set a goal of maybe getting closer to God or being a greater expression of our divine selves. And we put that into our spiritual GPS, right? Our God positioning system. And Spirit begins to guide us to our destination. We may not trust the guidance at first. We may want to check it and, take it slow. No problem. The GPS follows our lead, recalculating our path. It says, oh, you want to stay in that unhealthy relationship a little longer? No problem. Recalculating. Oh, you're too frightened to take that class right now? No problem. Recalculating. Gently and patiently it guides us, always giving us that new option, directing us to a new path to get to our destination. Our soul is our spiritual compass. Ernest Holmes put it this way in Thoughts Are Things. He said, since there is one spirit and this spirit is in you and in everything, then everywhere you go, you will meet the spirit. You'll meet the spirit in people, in places, and in things. This one spirit will manifest in and through all, including yourself, automatically adjusts parts to the whole. Therefore, you may accept with positive certainty that the spirit within you does go before you and prepares your way. Spirit goes before us and prepares our way. That's spiritual GPS right there. Teresa Avila described it as feeling that God is on the journey too. I love that. I love that idea that God's journeying with us. I heard a story about a group of Marines who were being tested on their ability to find their way out of the wilderness. And the Marine sergeant asked, what's the first and most important information on any map? And some said, well, knowing which way is north. Others said, knowing the keys so they could translate the distances and the symbols on the map. But the sergeant corrected them and said, no, the first and most important thing to know on any map is, where are you on it? Where are you on it? That's just a critical question. Where are you on the map? As a hospice chaplain, I'm honored to support people at the end of their life journey. Sometimes, and really, that's something that there is no real map for. But time and again, I see my patients finding a deep peace and comfort by recognizing and acknowledging the contributions that they've made in their lives. So it's not what they've gained, like money or objects or status, but what they gave. Their actions, their choices, the decisions that helped others, that made a difference in others' lives, their contributions of love and wisdom and kindness. That's what brings peace at the end of life. Ralph Waldo Emerson reminds us that every step of our journey is sacred and should be appreciated. He put it this way: to finish the moment, to find the journey's end in every step of the road, to live the greatest number of good hours is wisdom, right? To live the greatest number of hours is wisdom. May we all be that wise. So I would suggest that we're not so much finding our way along our spiritual journey as following our heart along the path. We have that inner guidance system that constantly calls us forward and then prepares the road before us. And so our job is really just to keep the channel of communication with the divine as clear as possible. And of course, we do this through our spiritual practice of prayer and meditation. And then we trust our spiritual compass, our God positioning system to guide us along the path. So I'd like to end with a spiritual mind treatment by Ernest Holmes from his book, Thoughts Are Things. It's titled Guidance. And I think it's a wonderful reminder as we travel along this spiritual journey of ours. So I just invite you to close your eyes and let these words settle into your heart. I know that the spirit within me goes before me, making perfect, plain, straight, easy, and happy the pathway of my experience. There is nothing in me that can obstruct the divine circuits of life, of wholeness and perfection. My affirmative word dissolves every negative thought or impulse that would throw a shadow of imperfection across the threshold of my experience. I identify myself only with the living spirit, within all the power, all the presence, and all life there is. I lift my cup of acceptance, knowing that the divine outpouring will fill it to the brim. And so it is. Amen. Filled to the brim, right? With peace and love as we walk with joy and confidence along our spiritual path. So again, thank you for joining me today. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow for another Uplift with Vision. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste.